Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday. Actually, let me bring my microphone. That's the way that my day has been going so far this morning. I don't even have my microphone in front of me, but thank you to everybody that has been joining us on this Tuesday, this Thanksgiving week. We have a very big show coming up for you today. And I just want to thank everybody who's already in the chat this morning. Hello, or this afternoon. I keep saying good morning. Good afternoon. It's 12:03. We can totally do this. Thanks to everybody that's watching on Facebook. I've been getting so many great messages. Let me fix this curl right here. So many great messages on Facebook from all of our new listeners, and I really, really, really appreciate it. Steve Moskowitz, of course, our exclusive founding sponsor. A big thank you to him. He's going to be coming on a couple times this afternoon, and one of the topics, I think we're going to talk about it next hour, is Taylor Swift. And there are some tax implications that are going to happen for all of you lucky people that were able to snag some Taylor Swift tickets. And so you'll want to tune in. Steve's going to break it down for us. And so you won't want to miss that. We will get into about that amazing 49ers game. Who watched it? It was so good. But one of my favorite things just was right at the start of it. And I can't show the video because I don't know if, the NFL is really that picky about it. But this was, because this was in Mexico. This was a game against the Cardinals, the 49ers against the Cardinals. They blew them out, 38-10. It was an amazing game. Did you see the Mexican? I don't know. He wasn't an announcer. He was like a hype man right at the beginning. And I want him to just do an opening for my show, but he's all the way in Mexico. Listen to this.
Los 49ers y los Cardinals en Monday Night Football. ¡Viva México!
I loved it. Yes, Viva la México!
Monday Night Football! Monday Night on ESPN! Monday
Monday night. And it was such a great game. I am telling you, if you did not watch it and you're a Niner fan, that was the game to watch. It was so freaking good. Now, the soccer stadium is where they played. It's called Estadio Azteca. And it's home to two of Mexico's top soccer teams. Now, it sits at an altitude of 7,200 feet. And that's obviously higher than San Francisco and Phoenix, where the Arizona Cardinals play. Now, the Niners, I don't know if this gave them a little bit of an edge because they freaking stomped the Cardinals. So they decided to train this past week in Colorado. The Cardinals, on the other hand, decided to keep their butts at home and continue practicing in Tempe, Arizona. I don't know if it made a difference, but apparently, according to a lot of people, and it looked like it, Arizona's defense looked gassed in the second half. They missed several tackles. They also were getting their butts kicked. So when you're losing that brutally, sometimes, you're just not as into it, as they say. But it was a great, great game. I absolutely loved it. I don't know if this is true. In theory, you're not even allowed to mention the game. Are you serious? Well, I'm mentioning it. I know, I saw this. Kim accurately pointing out it was pouring right before the game. So I think it actually stopped sometime in the first, but it was an amazing game. Go back and watch it. That was one to record. It was worth the trip to Mexico. Absolutely. It was worth the trip to Mexico. We did well in hockey as well. The Sharks 5-1 against the Ottawa Senators. I'm not a sports reporter or anything, and I'm not into hockey. I know, don't get on me, but I just, when I talk about football and I say that the reason why I like watching football is I completely understand the game. Like I could watch it and I understand what went wrong, what went right, the penalties. I understand the game. Hockey, and everyone, I know you're going to tell me in the comments, it's not hard. I either don't have the patience or the desire to fully learn the game. I know when there's a goal and everybody starts cheering. But I also know that 5-1 is a stomping. So yeah, go Sharks. That was awesome. I didn't watch it, but if any of you did and you're huge Sharks fans, congratulations on that. And then of course we are following the World Cup that's being hosted in Qatar, Qatar, not quite sure how to pronounce it. Okay, so the New York Times did this excellent piece, and I'll link it to my social medias. So they had a bunch of people explaining to us how to pronounce the word of the country. So there was one guy, this guy's name is, and I'm going to butcher it, I apologize, Hassan al-Thawadi. Okay, now he's Secretary General of Qatar's World Cup organization. This is how he pronounces the name of the country.
Most people in Qatar would say Qatar.
Qatar. Qatar. Sounds like
Most
Qatar.
Arabs would say Qatar. So the proper way of pronouncing it is Qatar. The colloquial way of pronouncing it is Qatar.
Sounds like guitar to me. Anybody? I'm hearing guitar with like the emphasis on the first one. But yeah, so Qatar. I don't know. Qatar. I don't want to mispronounce it, but if I am, I don't mean to offend anybody. But obviously they're on the international stage right now. And as they are on the international stage, there are a lot of people paying attention to what people are and are not allowed to do. And I think the thing that gets me is the fact that they're very, I don't know how to put this. They're very forthcoming. We did the whole Budweiser thing, and obviously you can't drink, right? You can't drink in Qatar. And I understand that. But at the same time, how much are we willing to put up with when a country is on the international stage? And I mean, I guess we'll just put up with everything. But you've heard the story, and I know I heard Mark mentioning it. And it was like the One Love bands that you weren't allowed to have on. I think some players wanted to wear one, and they weren't allowed to. But apparently, even if you're covering the World Cup, you can't. So there's this guy. His name is Grant Wall. He's a journalist. He was wearing this shirt. And he was told he could not come in at all. He could not wear the LGBTQ shirt. And so he shared this on his social media. Now he is with who? He just posted this on his Twitter. This also came right after people were again kicked out for wearing the One Love armband. And so he was on BBC talking about the fact that he was not allowed to wear this shirt. Do you think, and tell me in the comments, do you think that just wearing a shirt that promotes support for the LGBTQ community is a step too far? Do you think that we should, I'm going to take his face off, respect the beliefs of a country like this? Because a lot of people, when Grant Wall shared this on his Twitter feed, had some pretty interesting responses. They were saying, you're in their country and you should respect their rules. So this is what he originally tweeted out: security guard refusing to let me into the stadium for the USA Wales game. You have to change your shirt. It's not allowed. Then he went on to update it. He says, I'm okay, but that was an unnecessary ordeal. I'm in the media center, still wearing my shirt, was detained for nearly a half an hour. Go gays. I want to read you some of the responses. One person tweeted at him, commend you for doing it, but let's be clear. You knew it could end badly for you by wearing it. Not exactly a shocker, is it? And kind of screams, I want to be a hero. Look at me. You're not going to change a belief system thousands of years old, just like our Quran won't change yours. Other people were questioning why he even needed to wear the shirt. And then one person writes, you have to respect other countries' rules and cultures. The world is not just America or England. If you want them to respect you, you have to respect them. It's simple. And in response to that, one person wrote, no, we in the West don't subscribe to this kind of relativism. Bigotry and repression of expression are bad, period. And when you invite, this is the good point, and when you invite guests to your home, is it respectful to dictate to them what they can say or wear? My way or else isn't hospitable. And Kim sliding in, I'm talking
Hi.
about not just the armbands, but
Yeah.
reporters, journalists that want to cover the World Cup have been wearing like rainbow t-shirts and are not being allowed in. And I'm saying, should we just, I don't want to say bow down because that's not the right word, but I mean, should we discriminate or just not express our support because they have this homophobic reputation in the country? Is it respectful for us to respect their homophobia?
Well, we saw
I don't know.
we saw the same thing at the Olympics in China, right? Where all the reporters had to really watch what they said. Everybody had to be very careful because you're in a country where, you get thrown in jail for sneezing the wrong way, right? So you
Yeah.
have to really watch everything you say and do, similar to the Middle East. It's a good reminder that, things are not always the same, that we live in a free country, and we forget when we look around what that actually means until we see what happens in other countries like that. I mean, I think it serves a purpose to remind us that as we forget sometimes the good things about us, that now it smacks us in the face like, oh, you can't wear a rainbow shirt in Qatar? Okay. Got
Right.
it.
I mean, I guess for me, it, when the way you act and the what you support shouldn't know borders. Does that make sense? And I understand that maybe it's performative, right? Maybe it's like you can support the LGBT community and the cause. You don't have to wear the t-shirt and try to make yourself part of the story. So I get that aspect of it. It just sits with me the wrong way. But again, I think, and many of you in the chat are saying this, and a lot of people were reacting to Grant Wall, who again wore that rainbow t-shirt. It's, you're making it part of your story instead of making the focus on one, maybe trying to better things, trying to elevate the story. Kim writes, it's like when you go to someone's home and they take their shoes off, even if you don't adhere to that practice, out of respect, you take your shoes off. Okay, I kind of get that analogy, except we're not talking about tracking dirt into somebody's home. We are talking about the fact that you can be jailed, imprisoned, killed to be gay in that country. I guess I think it really boils down to the fact that I have a problem with basically us holding these types of events in countries that subscribe to this discriminatory type of belief system. And if that makes me wrong in some way, that makes me wrong in some way. But I just don't feel comfortable because it's like the rest of us are saying, it's okay. And it's not okay. It's not okay at all. Then don't participate in the games. If your championship potential means more than accommodate or don't participate, it's arrogant to dictate our beliefs. Interesting.
And that's what I kind of come back to is we believe a certain thing in America. We believe in freedom of speech, right?
Right.
We have these standards. We don't believe in women having to cover up. We don't believe in, pushing people allegedly and pushing people down. But
Yeah.
you go to another country, and is it pushing your beliefs on them to expect them to accommodate you? Maybe it will take them a while to get where we are. Maybe they'll never get where we are. But is it that whole ethnocentric thing where you go into it expecting that they're going to somehow believe like Americans believe, or, have some freedom of thinking, when really that's not the way that culture is?
Well, then I don't think that they should even play in the World Games in a country like that. And I don't think that America should play there. I think that, the last one that don't play in the games was right. Mesa Fragrance Oscar nominee give back 2008. Right, don't participate then. What does it say to us as a country? Yeah, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of hemming and hawing right now, but it's as if I'm developing this perspective right now. Should we really participate in competitions in countries where they subscribe to these types of discriminatory beliefs? What does that say to us? That our LGBTQ community in the United States is going to look at us on the international stage in a country in which they would be killed for just loving each other, and we're okay with that because we win games?
What you're saying then is it's your way or the highway,
No, I'm just saying
right?
I'm not going to participate in, and I'm not going to elevate your country on the international stage,
Right.
because I don't want my people to believe in my country to think that I support something like that, and is participating in the World Cup in a country that is so discriminatory and so homophobic, kind of saying it's okay, because we want to play this game, because we want, the win. We're okay with that. I don't know. It's rubbing me.
It isn't to me, but I try to balance it between, looking at it through the lens of my American view and looking at it through the lens of that country. I still come back to homophobia is homophobia. And just
Yes.
because they don't get it yet, just because it's different in their country or their religion states something different, doesn't mean that I'm willing to accept any less from myself or anyone else. And
Yeah.
so I feel like you're right. I feel like that we shouldn't accept homophobia in Russia or in any other country. And so to have events like this there, not okay. But then
Not
again,
okay.
you've got, you know, here in America, I don't think football or soccer is as popular as it is in these other countries where it's a huge big deal to have the World Cup come to your country. So I don't know what the right answer is.
In all honesty, I feel like the right answer is for us not to be hypocrites. And maybe I'm feeling so strongly about this because of what happened in Colorado Springs. Maybe it's because I could see where, oh, I'm not homophobic, but you allow things to happen, right? You allow tweets to happen or comments to happen or those types of things to happen. And it's not a slippery slope. I mean, it is a straight sliding into being okay with it and emboldening people who really harbor hate and violence in them to do something horrific like we saw in Colorado Springs. I'm not saying there's not homophobes and bigots in the United States, but I'm not going to stand there and turn a blind eye just to play a friggin' game. Um, it just bothers me. It really does. And I don't think games like this should be awarded. And I don't think that the United States should participate if it's so blatant like this. If a t-shirt is what can, get you arrested or in trouble, I don't know why we want to participate in something like that. I just
Well,
really don't.
where do you draw the line? I mean, is your issue then the fair treatment of all people? Because
Yes. It's not hard.
if it is the fair treatment of all people, then maybe you feel like we shouldn't have gone to the Olympics in China because
Right. There was a lot
clearly
of debate about that.
they've got some serious issues there as well. And so it's not just then how gay people are treated, it's how everyone's treated.
And I'm not saying that the United States,
That really limits your options.
it does, but I'm not saying again that the United States is just the angel country and we do everything right and we don't have all these problems here as well. But it is an acceptance of this hate, discrimination, and bigotry that I have a problem with simply to play a game on the international stage. And yes, Eric is absolutely right. FIFA is corrupt. The appointment of the games to Qatar is wrong. And it shouldn't happen again. And I think that if the United States and other countries that don't subscribe to these hateful belief systems stood up and said, you know what? We're not going to participate. You can appoint the games to whatever country you want, but we're not going to be there. I don't know if it's going to change the belief system, but at least we won't be there with blood on our hands as men and women who just want to love each other are jailed and murdered because of who they are. John Bradley chats in, we can't be surprised at the reaction of the Qatari government, but FIFA absolutely should not have agreed to this tournament there for many reasons, this included. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm more upset at FIFA than Qatar, but I guess I'm just mad about the whole damn thing, in all honesty. I really am. Because here at home, we had what happened in Colorado Springs. I do want to play you some sound from the hero. And, when you talk about somebody that just puts their own life on the line for other people, with no sort of thinking of their own, right? I mean, they just go in and they just do it. That's amazing. And Richard Fierro is the guy that had gone in, was in the nightclub, the Q nightclub in Colorado Springs, and he, along with somebody else, were able to subdue the gunman. I'm going to play you some sound. And I apologize. It's just going to be his voice because I didn't want to get in trouble using the video, but it's worth a listen. This is the guy that saved so many lives, and he went into his combat mode. He's an Army veteran. So here he is describing.
I proceeded to take his other weapon, the pistol, and then just start hitting him where I could, but the armor's in the way. And I found a crease in between his armor and his head, and I just started wailing away with his gun. And then I told the kid in front of me, kick him, keep kicking him. And I was guiding him. I was telling people, call 911, call 911. I brought him down. I was in mode. I was doing what I do downrange. I trained for this. I don't want to ever do this. I didn't even retire because I was done doing this stuff. It was too much, and it came in handy, and I got to protect my kid. I lost my kid's boyfriend. I tried for everybody in there. I still feel bad that there's 5 people. There's 5 people that didn't come home. And this guy, I told him while I was hitting him, I said, I'm going to kill you, man, because you tried to kill my friends. My family was in there.
It just eats you up listening to sounds like that. This was part of the account. Mr. Fierro said he was covered in blood when police arrived and officers tackled him and put him in handcuffs. He said he was held in a police car for more than an hour and screamed and pleaded to be let go so that he could see what happened to his family.
Oh, man. Oh.
And there's so many things that are, we played you the sound of another witness to the shooting that was hiding yesterday. And this statement has been going around because they said this club was the only LGBTQ place in Colorado Springs. And this guy tweeted, if you cannot wrap your head around a bar or a club as a sanctuary, you've probably never been afraid to hold someone's hand in public. And think about that. I mean, we take these things, straight people, heteronormative people, take these things for granted. They just do. For all those who just wanted to dance, and there's this image that's been going around. Just doing what other people do all the time. They go to a club, they kiss the person they love, they hug the person, they hold their hands. And I guess in just the last 24, 36, 48 hours, I've been, following all of this. It's just really upset me that at the same time stuff like this is happening. We have, the World Cup happening, and it seems to be so hypocritical. We say that we want to support our LGBTQ community, but only as far as until there's a game that can make us sponsorship money and be a win under our belt. And I don't like it. And it just sits wrong with me. And I think it's tragic. I really, really do.
Have you seen the show A League of Their Own? Not the movie, but the TV show.
Yes, I did. It was good.
And you get to the end of the show, the last few episodes, and they're at this bar. And there's a lot more lesbianism, I would say, going on in the show than there was in the movie. But it's not okay, and you have to keep it hidden until you get to this bar. And you have to have a special code to get in, right? And it struck me, the meme you showed about if you don't understand a bar as a sanctuary, then you've never been afraid to hold someone's hand in public.
Yeah.
But in this show, it's so obvious how this is the only place where they're allowed to be themselves, where they're allowed to be free, where society's constraints are not pressed upon them. And it's you really understand it if you watch that show. So if
Yeah.
you didn't understand the meme, if you get to watch the show, you really will understand how that could possibly be the case. How if
Yeah.
you live in a place where you're not accepted, having that one spot to go to just be is huge.
It is. I know we're coming up towards the bottom, but I also want to play you this. And now it's 2 minutes long. It's this guy, Brandon Wolf. He was actually a survivor from the Pulse nightclub shooting, and he was on MSNBC. That's the picture. I'm going to play you this. It's about 2 minutes long. So but every word that he says is so important to hear. And so I really wanted to play it in its entirety for you, because I think it's important for people to understand this. So again, here is Brandon Wolf, again, a Pulse nightclub survivor. Again, Pulse nightclub, a gay club in Florida that was shot up a few years ago, talking about what happened in Colorado Springs.
I'm angry because this is what we warned would happen. This is what we warned would be the inevitable consequence of unmitigated, unbridled hate in this country. Now, you just saw what's been happening for the last few years. Right-wing grifters, including politicians like Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott, they've been spewing this vile, hateful rhetoric about LGBTQ people. They've been trafficking in some of the oldest, darkest tropes against our community. They've been accusing us of posing a threat to children simply because we exist on planet Earth. And we warned them that inevitably this would result in violence, but they just couldn't help themselves. They couldn't help themselves from crafting one more fundraising email or hitting send on one more grotesque tweet. They couldn't help themselves as the temperature around the country continued to rise, as young people told us that life was getting less and less safe for them. They couldn't help themselves as armed protesters started showing up at drag shows across the country, or when white supremacists were being arrested outside of pride festivals. They couldn't help themselves when children's hospitals in Boston and other cities were getting bomb threats, having to install airport security terminals to keep people safe. They couldn't help themselves when a donut shop was firebombed for daring to advertise a drag show. And now 5 people went to a space that was supposed to be safe for them, a space like the one I knew well at Pulse nightclub, and they came out in body bags. Dozens of people were injured, scars they're going to carry forever. An entire community was terrorized. They paid the price for this short-sighted, cynical, and sinister hate that these people have been pumping into the ecosystem. I am angry because I am tired of asking, of begging, of screaming and scratching and clawing for people to just see us as human. See us as your family members, your neighbors, your friends. Please, I am begging you to treat us with a basic level of decency and respect. I'm angry because we deserve to live. Those people deserved to live, Joy.
And that was so well said. That again, Brandon Wolf, he was a survivor from the Pulse nightclub shooting a few years ago in Florida. I know it's heavy, and I know that it's an awful, sad, terrible thing that happened, but it's not that it's never going to happen. But what he just said there is the begging that this community has been doing to not just turn a blind eye to the jokes and the tweets and the straight up hate that is just thrown out there so casually, it seems, because it can lead to tragedy after tragedy. And I'm just done with it. I just really am. And so I'm not trying to conflate the two. I'm not trying to say that because Qatar and the World Cup is happening there, that's responsible for the Colorado nightclub shooting. But it is a message that we give to certain people in this country that it's okay to put up with and be silent on the hate against the LGBTQ community if it benefits us financially and in sports. And that's not okay. It's not okay to me. And I know that I've admitted I'm not a huge soccer fan, and I'm not trying to blame, obviously the American soccer team. but we need to be responsible for what we say, what we do, and what we support, either vocally or even silently. So that's my point. Thank you for letting me go off on this. It's just been tough to watch, and my heart goes out to everybody that's been impacted on this. We're going to do some quick news. When we come back, we actually were able to get the co-founder of the Satanic Temple. Remember we were talking?
Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday we talked about this. There's going to be down in Southern California, parts of California. I think it's in Southern California, Central Valley. Tehachapi. There's going to be a after school program led by the Satanic Temple. Okay, and I'm making the argument that yes, let's really test people's resolve about freedom of religion and having, Christian programs as after school programs. So we're going to bring in Lucian Greaves. Great name, by the way. He's the co-founder of the Satanic Temple, and he's going to join us, and we're going to discuss it, and we're going to debate it, and I'm going to read some of the comments that you guys post in the live chat. While I'm thinking about it, though, click that thumbs up. Please, please, please click that thumbs up and let us know that you love the show. Do it each and every show. It helps us out immensely. The super chat is live. If you want to make some donations there, we really appreciate that. And we already have some. We'll be giving shout outs throughout the show. So please do that. If you become a monthly Patreon subscriber and get so much love from me, please do by going to the NikkiMedoroShow.com. There's a link to the Patreon. And then all this week, grab your family, your friends' phones. Ask them, are you subscribed to the Nikki Medoro Show? Show them how to do it. It's really simple, really easy, and it'll help us grow the show. So thank you all so much for doing all of that. And again, we'll talk about the Satanic Temple coming to an elementary school near you right after the news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Former President Trump's tax returns will soon likely be in the hands of a House committee. The Supreme Court has refused to block those records from being released to the Democrat-led panel. The House Ways and Means Committee wanted the documents, and the court's ruling comes as the Democrats are losing control of the House after the first of the year. A suspect in the mass shooting at a gay bar in Colorado Springs is reportedly a former resident of Texas, Anderson Aldrich, raised in San Antonio, where he went by his birth name of Nicholas Brink. The name change, which happened when he was a teenager, allegedly came after relentless online bullying. Memorial services starting to take place now for the 4 University of Idaho students who were brutally murdered. Family members and friends gathered in Mount Vernon, Washington today to pay their respects to 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. He and his friends were found murdered on November 13th in a house very near campus. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi back in San Francisco. She'll be joining Mayor London Breed and others in spreading holiday cheer today. They are handing out socks, hats, scarves, and treats to more than 300 people. This is all part of St. Anthony's Giving Thanks event on Golden Gate Avenue. The nonprofit St. Anthony's joins other food banks across the Bay Area that have been really hit hard by inflation and are in desperate need of donations going into the holidays. A candidate in the race for Oakland's next mayor is now declaring victory. Sheng Tao said last night she's never felt more hopeful about the city's future or more determined to lead the fight for it. She slightly jumped ahead over the weekend after days of counting ballots from the midterm elections. Council member Lauren Taylor only trailing by just a few hundred votes in the ranked choice instant runoff, and he plans to speak out about it later today. Manatees may get increased protections if they are reclassified as an endangered species. Several organizations, including the Center for Biological Diversity, are petitioning to help West Indian manatees by changing their status from threatened. A statement from the center says the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service lowered protections in 2017, but the species has declined dramatically since then. And I don't even know what type of food you would serve, but I can't wait to find out. The Food Network is set to air its first ever Kwanzaa series next month. Variety reporting the Kwanzaa menu will be hosted by culinary scholar Tanya Hopkins. It will guide viewers through all of Kwanzaa's 7 principles. This series running for 7 episodes, and Hopkins has a special guest to prepare a recipe connected to that day's celebration. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you find yourself needing a little extra help with your taxes, you can call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL or catch him online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Kim. Yes, give Steve a call. He'll be joining us. He usually joins us once an hour, but I think definitely we're going to get into something regarding Taylor Swift resellers. So if you have tickets to the Taylor Swift Eras Tour that everybody was just clamoring for, so much so that they didn't even do a general sale, there are tax implications for you. And
What?
so I reached out to Steve last night, and I was like, Steve, we got to talk about this during one of the times you come on my show. So that's coming up at some
Extra
point.
taxes for your Taylor Swift tickets?
The resellers have to keep something in mind, not necessarily the person who buys the ticket. You're paying enough. What was it? $35,000, I think I saw.
Oh my God.
Something
no.
like that. I mean, I don't know who's paying it. I think it's just up on some of these, reselling sites like StubHub or whatever. No way in hell. Now, I mean, is there anybody, Kim, that you could think of that you're that into?
I would pay
seriously.
$35,000 to go see?
Okay, let's just say
No.
$500. For one ticket. $500. Is there anybody that you
No.
would pay that much money?
No.
$400. What's
No.
the most you would pay? Oh, you're one of those people though. You don't like going to concerts. I keep forgetting that. You want free tickets to everything, don't you?
Yeah. I still have that whole mindset where I worked in radio, right? Everything is free.
Well, now that
to
you
me.
don't, now that you're not working at a traditional radio station
Now you
anymore,
gotta
you're going to have to
pony
fork
up
over
for the
money
tickets.
for your
I went-
tickets.
I went to a Crowded House concert and I had the best time and I loved it. This was in the 90s and I loved that concert. And looking back, I would probably pay, I didn't pay this much back then, but I would probably pay $200 for that experience again to have that with the whole crowd singing. And it was really fun. But I mean, no, I can do without it. I can do without all that crap. Yeah, I don't need that.
See, I love concerts. And so, but I would never pay $500 for one ticket.
I would rather
maybe
go
if
to
it was
a
pit
local
tickets
venue and then just hear a local band.
Yeah, I mean, I love local shows, because I'm a huge reggae fan. I mean, that's like the best is going to small venues. I've gone to huge festivals as well and fought my way up to try to get to the front. But going to some small venues to see your favorite reggae star or any other type of music, that's the way to go. So, yeah, but Steve will join us because, again, if you were able to get those tickets to Taylor Swift, there are tax implications for the sellers, the resellers. That you're going to want to keep in mind. So stay tuned for that. Okay. So we touched on this yesterday. Kim did this story in her news.
Yeah.
Down in Kern County's Tehachapi, Golden Hills Elementary School. Okay. That's in Kern County's Tehachapi. They approved the Satanic Temple and Reason Alliance sponsor program. Now it's supposed to start, according to this article in the Sacramento Bee, on December 5th. So you could only imagine if, when you're a parent, you get those letters home, like, look at the new after school programs.
They have a little calendar.
Yeah, like sign up here, space is limited, and you want to get in there, right?
Usually it's jewelry making and piano and tennis.
Or soccer or something like that. Well, this is the Satanic Temple, right? And so parents are some in an uproar and a tizzy about it.
What? Satanic Temple?
So I was debating with Kim yesterday about this, and you were saying basically the whole word satanic is what kind of throws you off, even though you admitted yesterday that you don't believe in Satan.
I'm not religious.
You're not religious at all, but you just don't like the idea of Satan.
Well, my whole point
something you don't believe in,
and I can't wait to talk to the folks with that are
the Satanic Temple. Yeah, I'm gonna bring them on in just a second.
My whole point is your effort to really teach children how to be reasonable, critical thinkers that believe in science and logic? Or is your point to say Satan, Satan, Satan and freak out parents? Right?
Well,
Because-
let's ask him himself. Let's ask him that direct question. Lucian Greaves is with the Satanic Temple, one of the co-founders of the Satanic Temple, and joins us now. Lucian, thank you so much for coming on the show. Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. There we go. You need to unmute yourself, Lucian. I think the little mic button right there. If you can unmute yourself, that would be awesome. I can't do it for you, unfortunately. Let's see.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
All the way to the left on the bottom, little mute button.
Little mute button, Lucian. Do you see it? Oh, let's see. If you see your avatar right there, you can mute yourself, unmute yourself. All right. Well, let's just do a little bit. Lucian, when you figure out your unmute button, just click it for us and join right in. But Lucian is with the Satanic Temple. And just to give a little bit more background on this, the reason why, at least from what I understand from the article, the reason why the Satanic Temple is allowed to have this after school program at this elementary school is because they allow Christian after school programs as well.
It's called the Good News Club, and the Christians are there with their Good News Club. And so if you can have one religion, then why can't you have all religions, right?
Right, exactly.
I think the confusion and the problem comes in, and I'm looking for the article because I wanted to get it right, but there's a difference between the Satanic Temple and what is it, Nikki? The Satanic
Temple and the Reasoning. It's called the Satanic Temple and Reason Alliance, and it's a sponsored program.
And what if people think about, when they don't think about the Satanic Temple, they think about something else? They're thinking about
Satan.
Satanism or whatever it is. And so they're two different things, but the name is very confusing. And I feel like that's kind of where they get bogged down. So either they want to make a point and say, haha, if you're going to allow Christians, you got to allow Satan.
Yes.
Or they want to just get to the kids and just say, hey, we're about reason and logic. We're not about some pointy, horned guy. We're about truth and science and everything else. And
well, let's ask him. I think we have Lucian. Lucian, are you here? Can you hear us? Oh, Lucian, your mic's on. Can you hear us? Let me see. Let me chat at him. Can you hear us?
I don't know.
Oh, I hate this.
I can't hear him. You got to allow it permission to your microphone, perhaps.
No.
You can always do it through your. If Lucian's listening, you can always do it through your phone too, and it might actually.
Yeah, you can
work.
always use your phone as well, Lucian, but he's gone right now. But let me actually share the screen. So they have a Patreon, by the way, if you want to help support our show, and they talk about this idea of involving children in all of this. Let's give it another go, Lucian. Do we have you? Fingers crossed. And Lucian, if you can hear us, you can also use your phone. Let's see.
I see he's unmuted, but I don't. He might be able to hear us, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, so, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Do we hear you, Lucian? I feel like I hear something in the background. We apologize. Little technical difficulties here, and I don't know if this is maybe the first time that Lucian is using StreamYard, which is our thing. But anyways, while he figures this out, and Kim, if you see him, just run back into the thing because I'm going to read something.
Yeah, totally.
So they say, why involve children is what, the Satanic Temple is constantly asked. And they talk about the fact that it's not as if they want to convert people to Satanism, but it's kind of a question of why one religion and not another. And perhaps making it the Satanic Temple, kind of scratches that itch a bit for people to listen. Now, Lucian, can you hear us? Fingers crossed.
We can hear some thumping around back there. So something's happening.
Something is happening.
Something's happening with your microphone that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you?
Oh, I really want to talk to him about this. Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be a bummer if we can't.
I know. I don't know if he can hear us. Oh, I feel like if he could hear us, he would say something.
Yeah, I think he could say. I think he would say something.
Yeah. Oh well. Unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, Lucian, you can keep trying to come in as much as you want, but I don't know if he's going to be able to hear us. So I really wanted to have this debate.
Nick says something. Satanism isn't really a religion. I think there is a religion. That's the one where you see people sitting around pentagrams and they're doing sacrifice. I don't know. Isn't there a religion that's Satanism, but then this is not the religion. The people putting on the after school club is not a religion. I don't, maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong on that.
I think it also has to do with the fact of, making people think about it, and also having a community of people that kind of view things the same way. All right, let's let Lucian try to figure it out, because we have our top guy, our exclusive founding sponsor, coming and joining us right now, the one and only Steve Moskowitz, who never has a problem coming on our show and hearing us every single day. Steve, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I was telling people that the next time that you're on, we're going to talk about the T-Swift people, the people that were able to get their hands on some tickets. You'll have some advice for them regarding their taxes, because you're the guy that knows all the tax laws, all the tax rules.
And a major part of our practice is advising people what to do, what not to do, and also how to save taxes. It's like people that all ends of the spectrum, like people that can't pay their taxes. What do you do when you can't pay your taxes?
You hide under your covers, Steve. That's what you do, right?
You stick your head in the sand and you hope no one ever finds you, and you ignore the problem? No?
Well, Kim, a lot of people do that. That's what a lot of people do. But unfortunately, hiding under the covers or sticking your head in the sand doesn't work, especially with the IRS hiring these new 87,000 new IRS agents. So instead, you want us to make a deal for you. There's all kinds of good deals where you just pay part and the government forgives the rest. That's a great one. Or you pay in monthly installments, or they forgive the penalty. Sometimes the penalties, the interest are more than the taxes. Or, your circumstances change. Somebody gets sick, loses a job, business goes south. You say, leave me alone for a while until I get back on my feet, then I'll make a deal with you. There's all kinds of good deals. And in almost all cases, we can do everything for you. But the bottom line is you don't want to stick your head in the sand. And because if that happens, if you're in business, they'll go to your customers and say, don't pay you, pay them. That can ruin you, put you out of business. If you're an employee, they go to your employer and say, don't pay your employee, pay the IRS, which is horrible on your personnel record. Avoid all that. Just let us take care of your problem, and then you can enjoy the upcoming holiday.
Oh, I like that. Absolutely. Go ahead, Kim.
I have a question, asking for a friend, clearly. I know a lot of people that have a lot of money, they stand to, lose a lot if they don't have their taxes done properly and have someone on their side like you who can save them money. Maybe the little people of the world, the people who don't make that much money, maybe those are the people, though, that really, they feel it when they don't, save as much money as they can. They feel it when they get that tax bill. I know you're not judgy, Steve, but I'm wondering if someone that maybe, isn't loaded comes to you. Is there some Snickers that happens? Like, how much I'm saved this guy $25.
You're not making fun of anybody, Steve.
Yeah.
That's not you.
I mean, is there a threshold where the little people can come to you as well?
We're here to help people that need help. And the bottom line is a lot of times people don't realize, but they do have some benefit that's available to them, or there is some deal that can be struck. And, there's people from all walks of life that have tax problems. For example, if you can't pay your taxes, even if your income is lower than somebody else's, to you, that's an enormous problem.
Sure.
When you're underwater, if you're 5 feet tall and you're under 6 feet of water, you drown, as opposed if you're 7 feet tall, it's not a problem. But the bottom line is everybody has to deal with the IRS, and we deal with them for you.
Yeah. And that's the best part, is that Steve will do that for you. I don't want to talk to the IRS. You don't want to talk to the IRS. Who the hell wants to talk to the IRS? Nobody. Steve likes to. He actually likes to. So he'll do that for you. Just give him a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or MoskowitzLLP.com. That's MoskowitzzLLP.com. And Steve, we'll talk next time about T-Swift resellers, because there is something very important they need to keep in mind. So we'll talk next time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. So,
Steve, I didn't want to say it, but I didn't want him to know that it was me that was poor.
I think he knows. I think he knows that it's both of us. Like, we're like, hey, Steve, can you help me, please?
Steve, will you judge me? No, you won't? Okay, good.
Oh yeah, I know. So I'm reaching out to Lucian Greaves. Apparently we're having some audio difficulties with you, but it is still a good conversation to have, and hopefully we can get him back on shortly. But he gave this great interview not too long ago, and they were talking, and he was being asked, this is by NPR, and he was being asked, like, why don't you just call yourself like atheists if you don't believe in God? Or why does it have to be kind of the Satanic Temple? And they say that atheism is kind of boring, right? And well, not so much that it's boring, but there's this one quote by someone that's also connected, not Lucian Greaves, but somebody else connected to it. They say, atheism in and of itself is not a kind of affirmative set of organized values. It's more saying what you're not than what you are. And this person says, as a lifelong atheist myself, I can attest to the fact that atheism does not give you a community. It doesn't give you a mythology, a sort of organizing set of principles or ethics. And it doesn't give you a kind of way to organize yourself in relationship to others and make a change in the world. And so, obviously there's going to be people that are going to go kind of to the dark kind of Satan, reputation. But other people, like this interview with Lucian Greaves that I'm reading is talking about that community. Because when you're talking about community, a lot of people say you're talking about something like a church. I mean, it sounds like a church. It sounds like this community where you have a set of rules and you're going to do certain things. Anybody that's part of an organized religion understands that. And so he went on to say, he's like, those are the best elements of a church. And I'm not going to say that anything associated with religion is wrong. Obviously, I believe we are an authentic form of religious expression. I stand by that. We are a religion. But it's the sense of community, the common purpose and ethics. We may not agree with different churches and ethics they have, but he says, I don't put down the need for anybody to have those elements in their lives. Okay, let's give it one more chance. Does everybody want to say a prayer to see if we can bring Lucian in? All right, Lucian Greaves from
here I am. Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm so excited. Thank you. I literally have been so excited about this interview for like 24 hours. So I'm so excited that we can get you on because, and I don't know if you were able to hear us at all before. Were you able to hear anything?
I was not. I changed devices. I have no idea what the problem was settings wise or anything else.
You know what? It is totally casual here on the Nikki Medoro show, so do not worry about it. Okay, so what I was saying, Lucian, and again, this is Lucian Greaves with the Satanic Temple, a co-founder. I was saying that we were mentioning this as a news story yesterday, myself and Kim McAllister, and we were kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum regarding the idea of a after-school program at an elementary school, obviously for kids, that is run by the Satanic Temple. So I guess first off, why an after-school program? Why does the Satanic Temple have an after-school program? And how do you kind of sell it to me? I'm a parent. I've got kids in elementary school, for instance. How would you sell it to me on why I would want to sign my child up for that?
Well, you might not, and that's fine. And you're perfectly free to not expose your kids to it or not send them to the after-school Satan Club. And that's something people need to recognize. This isn't about something being placed in the school curriculum or being part of the school district's official agenda. This is a matter of public facilities being allowed to be put to use by religious organizations. And religious organizations have done this quite a bit in recent times. And in 2001, the Supreme Court decided that the Good News Clubs could operate with impunity to open after-school clubs that really seek to proselytize and indoctrinate children into this idea that they must follow a particular lifestyle or be burned in hell eternally. And while we don't want to engage in religious teaching, we want children to have an alternative to this kind of archaic and we think destructive way of thinking. So we wanted to set up after-school clubs that would focus on critical thinking and other such things, which also leads people inevitably to the question, why the satanic attachment at all?
Right.
And I think that just kind of belies a certain sense of inauthenticity in our attachment to our satanic identity, which isn't really true. This is something that really is meaningful to us. We are the Satanic Temple, and we aren't going to set up a separate entity just to conceal that fact, which I think would be more horrific to people if they found out.
Mm-hmm.
I think, straight out the gate, it's educational that people know that people who do self-identify as Satanists work on pro-social campaigns and do work with children and other such things and charities and things like that. But
can you explain to us, Lucian, exactly what the Satanic Temple stands for, why it's created?
And what the difference is between the Satanic Temple and the Church of Satan?
Yeah, well, there's miles of text written kind of about these things, and summaries are difficult. Imagine coming up with an elevator pitch summary of what Islam is or Christianity as well. And although we don't have a history with those kinds of deep, direct roots, history informs everything we do, and the kind of symbolic structure of the political, mythological aspects of Christianity and our kind of affirmative values that are derived from opposition to certain of those values and other such things. But I think one of the first things for people to realize about us is that we are non-theistic. We view Satan metaphorically, not as a literal entity.
So no horns, no red guy in hell, that kind of thing. That's not it.
Right. We're talking more the Miltonic rebel against tyranny. And we really do align ourselves as a counterforce to theocratic encroachments. And we have what we feel are affirmative values that build a religious community based upon kind of a common narrative and symbolic structure and things like that. But we do get involved in issues where we think that pluralism isn't properly being respected, or the real definition of religious liberty is being trampled upon when you have one viewpoint taking dominance over all the others. And that's what we feel we see happening now with all this motion to put evangelical religion, Christian religion, upon display to the exclusion of all others.
So it is a point you're trying to make, in addition to having, these after school programs, is to kind of test how strongly people believe in religious freedom. Because that's what I was saying yesterday, that it seems a lot of people had no problem with the football coach praying at the 50-yard line at a school function or things like that. But all of a sudden you bring the word Satan into something, and that has a certain reaction in groups of parents, as if you're trying to lead your child down the dark path and kill people or eat bird heads or whatever kind of story they have in their head about Satanism. Is that the point, is to kind of have that discussion? And are you having that discussion with parents?
Well, we are having multiple discussions, and people often ask when we do any type of project whether it's one thing or the other, when a lot of times it's multiple things. Like, we do want people to recognize that there are these diversity of viewpoints, and that, we would hope that they can understand that we can live peacefully in an environment together where we respect each other's norms, with limits on our encroachment upon each other and other such things. But we also do want these clubs to be in place, and we actually want a space where people who have children who would be interested in an after-school program that doesn't seek to indoctrinate or proselytize, but teaches critical thinking and self-directed learning, we really do want them to have that place. And we try not to get involved in things where the primary thing we're doing is only supplementary to the real point of what we're doing, right? So when we ask to speak at a city council meeting where they allow the city council meetings to be opened up with a prayer, people always ask, so are you trying to shut down the other guys from speaking? No, we actually honestly do want to speak. We want to have our minute and a half and show people that we are productive members of the community and that we are civically engaged. But we also do want people to learn those lessons that come from our presence being there. And what we do see is a lot of what I think is reflection. And I think a lot of people see this specter of Satanism through this kind of lens where they mirror their own worst tendencies and blame us for them. And that's what we got from the 80s and 90s, when there was this idea of mindless satanic cults taking
subliminal messages and songs and things like that.
Bizarrely, a lot of those focused on the idea of rampant pedophilia within organized Satanism, which clearly wasn't taking place, and there was no evidence of any organized Satanism being guilty of these kinds of crimes. And this came, not too long before the widespread revelation of Catholic Church abuses by priests and things like that. And I find it interesting that whenever we come into a community, start an after-school Satan club, we will announce that we're not seeking to proselytize and things like that. And then the local community will express reservations or doubts that we're telling the truth about this. But the fact of the matter is, we could be proselytizing according to the law. And the religious clubs that are already in operation in many schools are specifically there to proselytize.
Sure.
And they're there with a mission of converting children who might be thrown into an after-school club because their children are using it as a kind of daycare. They really want to reach out to the children who aren't converts yet, and to prepare children who are already converts to proselytize to other children. They don't have rules regulating that these after-school clubs do even criminal background checks. We do criminal background checks. So then we get people hitting us with these questions. What kind of people are these working with you? How do we know you're not going to proselytize to children? And while these might be good questions and things to look into, we should think about those when any religious identity comes in, if we're going to be concerned about them at all. Otherwise, you just have to back off. But you did ask about the difference between the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple.
Right.
And I wish more people really did know about the difference. I've written a long essay about that that can be found on our website. But the Church of Satan started in the 60s, and conception of kind of the individualism espoused by most people I self-identify as Satanists. And in the Satanic Temple, you'll find people identify as individualists as well. But in the Church of Satan, it was very much derived from Rand's philosophy. And within their conception of fighting for individual liberties, you will see that the Satanic Temple is much more along the line of philosophical thinkers like the founders of the United States, and who written the Constitution, and the idea of equality for all under the law, and each person being respected individually as somebody deserving of dignity and rights. Whereas the Church of Satan, aside from subscribing to more archaic ideas of being able to put hexes and curses on people and other supernatural things, they also view that kind of individualism as allowing somebody the autonomy to become an absolute ruler over other people. So they're not very much, they're not at all anti-tyrannical, anti-autocracy in the way that the Satanic Temple is. They claim to have an attachment to science and pragmatic thinking. But of course, like I said, they also believe you can put curses on people, which will bring death upon them and other such things.
Right. What does Satan have to do with science and logical thinking? Why the word Satanic Temple then?
Yeah, why the word? Because you're going to get obviously a reaction because of that.
Could it be called something else, like the
the
reasonable, rational folks for learning? I mean, something else.
No, because we have a religious attachment to Satan, and this is something I think people really have a difficult time understanding.
I'm trying my hardest.
For the most part, people who grew up in Christian culture, in a Christian world, the symbolic construct that cultural raw material is still deeply meaningful to us at this atavistic level, where it's kind of been imprinted upon us in a way you just can't walk away from, even when you walk away from superstition and supernaturalism. And some of us went through a conversion phase of more atheistic, satanic beliefs from that Christian environment and found the utility of blasphemy very helpful and almost transcendent in overcoming that. For some people, upside down crosses, pentagrams, and things like that aren't just things to piss off people around them who attach themselves to Christian symbolism or whatever else, but they're self-liberating as well. They show you that there aren't repercussions to those things, that these are just symbols and that they are malleable within our lifetimes to different meanings and other such things. And for some people, that feeling, whenever it comes, that revelation is so strong and self-defining that you can't arbitrarily pick another name for it. Satan was like the ultimate taboo for some of us, and you just can't take that away, right? It's like some people grow up in a Christian environment, in a deeply evangelical conservative one, and then come to more liberal forms, and that conversion is probably just as dramatic, but the symbolic conversion isn't the same as what we have, right? But it doesn't mean it's any less meaningful or that we're any less attached to it. So,
well, what I find interesting, Lucian, is the fact that I was raised Catholic, and so I consider myself always Catholic, even though I don't practice as much. But Kim does not believe in organized religion at all, and yet I do not have an aversion to you calling it. I totally get everything that you're saying, and she seems to be having a bigger problem with it, which I find to be quite interesting. And that's, again, why I wanted to bring you on. Do you find that it is more religious people that can't seem to understand it? Because I feel like this is a unique kind of disconnect that myself and Kim are having with the idea of calling your group the Satanic Temple and having the after school program have that word. I understand the religious freedom aspect of it. I understand the fact that it's a trigger. She doesn't believe in organized religion or Satan, and yet still can't get over the symbol of it all, even though she doesn't believe in it at all. And I find that interesting.
We usually agree on everything, but I guess my problem is attaching to the word Satan. And I understand what you just said, Lucian. I think I need to do some more reading on it to really understand it. But I wouldn't send my kids to the Good News God Club or to the Satanic Club, even though the description of the Satan Club with critical thinking and science are all the things I subscribe to, because I don't want my kids attached to good or evil. I don't want them.
Aren't you teaching your kid to I would assume that you're teaching your kid that neither are real. And so why such an attachment to the symbol, I guess?
I don't even know the answer. I don't know the answer. Yeah.
No, I can, and I can understand people ask me within the Satanic Temple what I feel their level of comfort should be with any public exposure being openly a Satanist. And I don't know how to answer that for people individually either. And I can't answer that for parents if they ask, well, what does this say about putting my child in the position of perhaps being a pariah within the school district just for joining an after school club? And, the answer to that is that, the more people do it, the less there will be that stigma. But also, you have to evaluate your own life and your own liability, in doing something like that before you take that kind of jump. But for us, we do think that if people can see that we genuinely have this conception of Satanism that probably conflicts diametrically with everything they think they know about Satanism, I think if that even just serves to confuse people as to what the definition of Satanism is, or at least makes them think along the lines of the fact that, different words can have different meanings in different contexts, different symbols are flexible over time, and different people have different perspectives on different things, then I think in that alone, we've done people a positive service in the world. Because the fact of the matter is, the kind of mythologies that have driven witch hunts in the past related to witches and Satanists and things like that have never really served any type of positive function whatsoever.
What kind of response have you gotten specifically from that? What is it, Golden Hills Elementary School? I mean, have people signed up? Do you find that people are signing up, or is it not happening?
No, people are signing up, but at this time, we'll get like about five people signing their children up per group. That's around the number, about around five kids at the clubs now. But my genuine thinking is that we put a lot of work into the after school clubs to actually make them enriching for kids, well beyond just merely establishing a club just to prove a point.
So what do the kids do? Can you, if I wanted to sign my kids up, what would they do in a typical after school program?
Well, the other co-founder, I co-founded the Satanic Temple with Malcolm Jerry, and Malcolm actually got a degree at the Harvard School of Education and consulted with other education professionals and thinkers about how to approach a curriculum that would best serve self-directed learning standards. So we have a bunch of activities available, and the kids can kind of choose which ones they want to do. And there are people on hand to work with them if they want to be worked with, and also provide lessons based on the types of puzzles or activities they're working on. And those can differ throughout the clubs given the preferences of the people running the actual local after-school Satan clubs on the ground, but all kind of run upon that self-directed learning philosophy. And we tried at first with a more rote curriculum, but we like to test and refine these things, and we found that after school kids don't generally want to go into something that's similar to a degree program that requires a whole lot of their concentration and perhaps mental homework capital and things like that.
Well, I find it so interesting, Lucian. Go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to ask, do you teach the kids who Satan is in the Satan Club? And who, as the founder of the Satanic Temple, or one of them, who do you think Satan is? Do you think Satan is the bad guy, or do you see Satan as a different figure?
No, I think of Satan as the oppositional force and the opposition to something in particular. And that's the ever encroaching tendency of different types of tyranny to take over. I think, for us to have any kind of functional democracy, it's going to take constant vigilance and it's going to take constant maintenance. And I like to think that we're always going to be a force that kind of questions those kinds of norms that crop up that lead inexorably, we feel, again and again towards tyrannies. And I think right now we really do see an effort in a certain segment of U.S. politics to install a theocracy. And I don't think that is in any way hyperbole. And that's something we're very much concerned about now.
Well, I mean, I think that you guys are making a good point. I think that it is a debate that needs to be had. And I do actually support it starting young with kids to be this critical kind of thinker regarding these things, and what we accept is just normal and it's okay versus something that may be outside the box of our normal way of thinking. Lucian Greaves, you can find more about the Satanic Temple and the after school program. Just go to thesatanictemple.com and you'll find it all there. Lucian, I'll tell you, you've been the longest interview I've ever done on this show so far since it's been released. And so many people in the comments are happy that we're having this conversation. It's quite interesting. I'd love to keep in touch and see what else. If you ever end up at another elementary school our way, we'd love to have you back on, because I think this is an important conversation for people to have. So Lucian, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about the technical errors.
No.
Call me anytime. I'm available. It was great chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's Lucian Greaves with the Satanic Temple on the Nikki Medoro Show. Yeah, I mean, all right. So Kim, you're my barometer.
I leave the interview still not knowing who he thinks Satan is.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Why is that important to you? Do you understand what he's saying about why it exists?
I do understand their effort to be nonconformist in a way. and to bring all sides to an issue. I understand their effort, but in the end, it's still called the Satanic Temple. And I want to know, who is Satan to you then? Let's get to the nitty gritty. And I didn't feel like that's particularly answered well. It wasn't straightforward.
Well, I mean, I think that, I mean, he mentioned it towards the end, and I'm just going to put it the way that I understood it. It's a pushback against the kind of the Christian, God-centered conversation that seems to be a-okay for a lot of people in after-school programs. So it's like, if you are trying to push back against something like the word God, what better word than Satan?
But this would have been a good answer. Robert Healy says Satan is a symbol. It's not a who.
Right.
Okay. All right. If that's what he was trying to say, then I missed the point. Right.
Okay. So you're okay with that?
If he's trying to say that Satan is a symbol and that we don't believe in an evil guy who's out to do you harm, then okay, I can try to wrap my brain around it. But I think it's different than everything we've been taught, whether we were in school or whether we're watching movies or just living in this society where Satan equals evil.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and I think that he was trying to compare the two because of, you know, the Church of Satan versus the Satanic Temple. The Church of Satan kind of goes down that darker path. Well, they're just trying to, I guess for lack of a better word, take an intellectual approach to what Satan is, what it means, what it is a symbol of. And if you take it as it is a pushback against people that want to incorporate religion, Christianity, evangelical, whatever, into a school, I think that that's the perfect symbol for it. I mean, there is no better symbol for it.
How interesting of a child would we have if we, you know, were a religious family and took them to whatever church, you know, on Sunday, and then enroll them in the Satan Club as well, so that they would have this full, well-rounded understanding of organized religion and were able to question what they believe.
Yeah. I mean, what would your family be like if you did that? Now, I don't know. I'm not going to share this because I don't know if it's going to come through. It's too tiny of writing.
Nick is right on the money.
There we go. Thank you. Now, according to this brochure about the Afternoon Satan Club, this is kind of to answer your question. Why Satan? They say Satan to us is not a supernatural being. Instead, Satan is a literary figure that represents a metaphorical construct of rejecting tyranny over the human mind and spirit. So if you believe that Christianity or organized religion, you could fill in the blank. I don't mean to just pick on Christianity, but if you believe that it's just being pushed on people, right, you have to push back in kind of an equal and opposite way. And so for, let's say, Christianity, that symbol, that literary figure, that whatever, fill in the blank you want to describe it, is Satan. And, you know, I love conversations like this because I think that it makes people really reflect on what they really believe and what they put importance and true symbolism into. And that's why I find you absolutely fascinating, Kim, because you have such strong feelings about something you absolutely don't believe in. And it's so interesting. It's like, I say the same thing about people that don't believe in God and make it their mantra to kind of like express that something that you don't believe in, you have such an emotion about. And I find that fascinating. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. It's just fascinating to me that you can have such a strong emotional reaction to something
to it. Yeah.
That you don't even believe in. And it's kind of funny.
I mean, the truth is, I would have a hard time checking the box and sending in the check to the Satan Club. Right? I'm having a hard time with it.
I don't know if I'd sign my kid up for it, but I might if I wanted to just bother some people, I guess.
When what I believe to be, you know, as far as religion, my thoughts might align more closely with Lucian and crowd, right? Even though I just have a hard time checking the box. Maybe I'm very integrated into what society has taught me.
Now, Murphy, who's a huge supporter of the show, she writes in, why not call it scientific thinking? I get rid of that symbolism of the literary figure, but I like my science extra sciencey.
Yeah, me
now,
too,
again, Lucian addressed that because Kim asked that, like, why not? But again, it would be disingenuous, right? It would be kind of hiding the fact that they're associated with the Satanic Temple. If I sign my kid up for an after-school program called Scientific Thinking, and then after a couple of weeks or whatever, found out that they're linked to the Satanic
It's run
Temple
by the churches. Yeah.
I would not the Church of Satan, not the Church of Satan, but the Satanic Temple. I would be like, why did you hide it? Then I think something nefarious is going on, right? Or there's something evil going on. But if you're forthcoming, like Satanic Temple, doing your after school program, sign on up, then I'm like, hey, at least they're leading with it, right? They're challenging you. They're challenging your belief system. And I'm fully loving this conversation, and I think it's awesome.
I think where we land, though, where we can agree is if they have the God Club or the Good News Club run by the Christian organization, then the Satan Club has every right to be there as well.
And that's why they can be.
Do one religion, you're going to do them all. And once you open that door, you're inviting everyone in.
Exactly. And that's the point. And I think a larger point that they're trying to make with these elementary school after school programs is, look, we're allowed, and they are, and they're not being removed. They're allowed to be there. Parents can be all in a tizzy about it if they want to, but they're still allowed to be there under the law, which
I guess
you're American, you should be behind 100%.
It's the whole using the name of Satan just to kind of piss people off and stir up the pot that gets me.
Again.
I know, I hear you.
That's the point. It's a pushback against the God Christian centered. And so what is that opposite reaction? What is the opposite figure? What is the opposite symbol than God? It's Satan. So therein is the point. So great conversation. Thank you all for joining in. I love this one. 877 Cars for Satan.
Yes, that's a good one.
Donate your car to the underworld. Help those that are down there. That's awesome. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. While we're thinking about it, share the show with your friend if they missed it. This is one of the many conversations we have on the Nikki Medoro Show. Click that thumbs up right now. We have to do our exercises. You always miss this, Kim, because I do this right at the beginning of the show, but I didn't this time because I was having some technical difficulties. But I do my arm stretches, and then I work out my fingers. You gotta do your finger exercises.
The arm stretches felt good, though. I'm sorry I missed that.
I know, yeah. You gotta do it every day. And then you have to work your finger and click that thumbs up right then and there. Please go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com, click on the Patreon, become a monthly subscriber. It's just an awesome way of supporting the show. Any amount. It's just a once a month donation. And so think of it as buying me a cup of coffee or buying the show a dinner or whatever you can afford.
We appreciate it very much.
We always appreciate it. Hello to all my Facebook watchers. We are on Facebook as well. Another way for you guys to share the show. But if you could share the YouTube link, because the more subscribers we get, the more money we can make, in all honesty, on the show, and the more reach we can have. And we want to have as much reach as possible on the show. And then, of course, the super chat is live. And that's a way for you guys to get your comments read, super stickers, super thanks. I'll be giving some shout outs right after Kim's news at the bottom. So if you want to throw us a few bucks in the super chat, we always, always appreciate it and love all of our listeners so very much. Let's see. Well, let's go. Susan Hayes. People who have a reaction to the separation of church and state, religion is shoved down our throats. Look at the Supreme Court. There's barely any separation. We have rights to freedom from religion. I love that. It seems like the COVID pandemic really brought out a lot of people's freedom of my body. And then there was like a lot of hypocrisy and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, people would bring in Roe v. Wade and bring in vaccines and all of this kind of stuff. And it's good to kind of dig down into what you actually believe and why you believe the way you do. I think that if we're talking about Satan, or we're talking about body autonomy, or we're talking about life and what it means to be pro-life or pro-choice, all of these words are symbols in and of themselves. And it'll be interesting when people have more of these types of conversations for them to discover, and myself and Kim and everyone to discover how we truly feel about things like that. Speaking of the pandemic, Dr. Fauci, did you see this? He gave a press conference today, likely his last before retiring as the White House chief medical advisor. What a career this guy has had. And he kind of touched, and I'm going to play you a little bit of sound. I do have it. Yeah, I have the sound right here. Talking about the politics of it all, right? And if you don't know, we may be in like this tridemic type of thing, RSV, the flu, and then of course COVID. He wants people to get vaccinated, obviously. If you've never been vaccinated, I don't know what would make you get vaccinated. But here is Dr. Fauci during what is likely to be his last presser as the public health advisor for the White House, talking about what he hopes people do.
Back in my days in medical school and when I was an intern and a resident, when a patient came in, whether or not the patient didn't like you, was angry with you, whether it was a rich person or a poor person, you treated everybody the same because you cared about them and you wanted everyone to walk out healthy. So when I see people in this country, because of the divisiveness in our country, of not getting vaccinated for reasons that have nothing to do with public health, but have to do because of divisiveness and ideological differences, as a physician, it pains me because I don't want to see anybody get infected. I don't want to see anybody hospitalized. And I don't want to see anybody die from COVID. Whether you're a far-right Republican or a far-left Democrat, it doesn't make any difference to me. I look upon it the same way as I did in the emergency room in the middle of New York City when I was taking care of everybody that was coming in off the street. So that's the thing that troubles me most about this.
I love that he mentioned that working in the emergency room. You know, it doesn't matter if somebody that comes into the emergency room is a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter if, maybe you're a Jewish doctor and someone that walks in has, a swastika tattooed on their chest. You serve them, you help them. That's your job. And that's what you do. And I hope we can get back there. I don't know if we have fundamentally been changed as a country on who we consider experts, but I wonder what it's going to do to us if we continue to look to those either we find on social media or a place like YouTube or something because we want confirmation, that confirmation bias, that echo chamber, rather than listen to those that have dedicated their lives and yet are still human, that are allowed to make mistakes, that are allowed to be wrong as long as they own up to them. I'm not saying there's a halo over Dr. Fauci's head, but I do not believe that he wanted to deceive the American public. He wanted to save lives. I firmly believe that. And I think that he should take a bow for having such a long career of trying to keep people alive in the United States. I mean, that's what he dedicated his life to do.
He saved a lot of people.
I mean, he was there for the AIDS epidemic. He's been there through Ebola. I mean, all of these things. And it was this latest one that just really divided the country and really, literally in many cases, put a target on his back, right? I mean, the death threats and all those things that the poor guy had to experience and probably is still getting simply because he wanted people to do the right thing and get vaccinated and do all those things. So, I don't want to go through anything like that ever again. I worry about the next time if we don't have someone like Dr. Fauci, who it's going to be, who's going to be able to and has been around long enough. You want to talk about the benefit of experience. The benefit of experience is that. And I just hope that we don't have another pandemic, at least not in our lifetime. I don't know if we could survive something like that. Okay, so stick with the Nikki Medoro show. We're going to do a quick a news update. When we come back, Governor Newsom has flip-flopped. And I want you to tell me if you think he made the right move, because he's decided to release a ton of money for homeless programs after only a couple of weeks ago saying, you know what? Your goals, cities, not good enough. You're not making any progress. Why am I going to throw more money at bad programs? Well, he's relented. So we'll get into that. I'll also tell you what percentage of American households make enough money to buy, a typical home in major U.S. cities. We'll also do a little bit of some celebrity trash. Again, Steve Moskowitz should be joining us within the next half hour with some advice, tax advice for people who were able to score some Taylor Swift tickets, because there was a change in the tax law that's really going to impact you if you're planning on reselling those tickets. So that's all coming up in the next half hour on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
In this report, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. The Supreme Court refusing to block former President Trump's tax returns from being released to a House committee. The Democrat-led Ways and Means Committee wanted those documents. The court's refusal to intervene came after Chief Justice John Roberts stopped the process earlier this month. The White House is advising Americans be up to date on your COVID vaccine. It's all part of a year-end push. More money also being made available for entities like community health centers to make sure folks get that vaccine. The driver charged in a deadly car crash at an Apple store in Massachusetts is having his bail set at $100,000 cash. Police arrested Bradley Rain Monday after he drove his SUV right into the Apple store there near Boston. He said his foot got stuck on the accelerator while driving. Police did not find any drugs or alcohol in his system. They are wondering whether that was an accident. In San Francisco, the Elections Commission is opening the door to new leadership after 20 years. Last week, the commission voted 4-2 to begin searching for a possible replacement for current director John Arntz, who was told in a letter that the commission was motivated by equity and diversity. The commissioner said they want to act on the city's racial equity plan, and their desire is to give people an opportunity to compete for a leadership position. In the letter, partly released by the San Francisco Chronicle, Arntz was told the reason for the move was not related to his performance. He said he's been the director there of the San Francisco Elections Department since 2002. He's allowed to reapply to be considered for the position if he wants to. Several offices have condemned the move as the city politics, including city attorney and Mayor London Breed. Can you imagine? You've got the job for 20 years and all of a sudden they say, you know, nothing's wrong with your performance, but we'd like someone else to be able to apply. California Attorney General Rob Bonta looking into hospital algorithms that may have racial bias. Bonta telling Kaiser Health News that unequal access to the healthcare system need to be fought and reversed, not forwarded and propagated, and that algorithms have the power to do either. Back in August, he asked 30 hospital CEOs for a list of commercial software programs that their facilities use. At this point, it's too early to know what the investigation will find. Bonta's office will not name the hospitals involved. If you live in California, heads up, Coconut, the California Highway Patrol is ready for Thanksgiving enforcement. Officers say they will intensify operations across the state for 5 days this week. They're trying to find intoxicated drivers, get them off the road for the long Thanksgiving Day weekend. They've got extra officers out on duty. Our maximum enforcement period starts Wednesday night and runs through Sunday. And now for some Thanksgiving stories. Fire officials reminding everyone Thanksgiving is the biggest day of the year for cooking fires. That's why they're offering tips to help keep families safe this week. They say we should keep our eyes on the cooking equipment and keep young children out of the kitchen. And it turns out the traditional Thanksgiving dishes might not be so many people's favorite. Turkey in shorter supply this year thanks to the avian flu, but that might be okay because this study is showing nearly 30% of American adults don't like turkey anyway.
That's me.
The Vacationer, an online travel guide, served Americans across the country. Cranberry sauce, the number one on the dislike list, while turkey is number two. Can you name number three?
That people don't like?
Yep.
Yams.
Green bean casserole.
No, right. Come on.
Green bean casserole is so gross.
Yeah, I mean, Nick's in the chat. What's my preferred Thanksgiving meal? A meal somebody else makes. I mean, I like my favorite part of a Thanksgiving meal. I like green bean casserole. I like the dinner rolls, the brown and butter rolls. I can eat like a whole handful of them. I like mashed potatoes, but only with gravy. And honestly, if my plate was just that, I'd be good. I do like turkey, dark meat, but it's not like I'm craving it. If there was ham, I would be loading up my plate with ham. But it's turkey. It's always turkey.
Yeah, I could leave out the cranberry sauce
Oh,
and the
nobody
green
likes
bean
cranberry.
casserole. No, I don't like either one.
Oh, I like
But
it.
I do like the yams with the marshmallows on top.
No,
The sweet potatoes.
I mean,
Oh,
I'll have
bring it
a
all.
bite. I'll
Mhm.
have a bite. But my mother-in-law, she made one year, and she's never made it exactly the same way ever again. But she made one year that she got the baby carrots. She made them with longer carrots, but the baby carrots are the ones too. She took baby carrots, right? And she wrapped them in bacon. So you have to be meat eaters, people, okay? She wrapped it in bacon and then she put them in the oven so the bacon got all crispy. And then, like, towards the end, she drizzled maple syrup on them. Oh my God. So good. I mean, between the sugar from the carrot and the maple syrup with the saltiness of the bacon, it was so good. Yeah, maybe I'll have
We
to make
ended up with extra pears one year, and my husband did this thing where he made brandied pears with cinnamon and sugar. God, they were so good. Who would have thought? Does your
Yeah.
family make the ambrosia, the
No,
Jell-O
ew,
marshmallow?
God, no.
Fudge?
Why?
Yeah.
Nobody's eating that crap. No. No, 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 no. I don't like Jello's okay. You don't need to add anything to Jello. And in all honesty, I know there's always room for Jello, but Jello, no. There's way better desserts than that. Ambrosia, ugh, no, thank you.
My husband's family secret is a little bit of sugar, just a little bit of sugar in the mashed potatoes. I swear to God, they're so good. So good.
Ooh, I was gonna add
Mhm.
something to our stories for tomorrow, and there's an article I was reading, and I'm not gonna give it away right now, but they were saying there's a tip and trick for the best mashed potatoes. And so I'll go into those. So if anybody wants to send some of their tips and tricks, and a reminder that on Friday, everybody needs to come up with a nice yummy plate of leftovers because we're going to eat it together on Friday. I do want to let you guys know we will not be having a live show on Thanksgiving. I will be with my family and we're going to be crazy, but we will be back on Friday. So it's definitely going to be happening on Friday. So enjoy your time with your family and get ideas for a nice leftover plate because we'll eat it together if you
All
want
right.
to, during our Friday food segment right at noon on Friday, the day
I
after
like it.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, so it'll
The
be awesome.
news is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. So if you need help with your taxes, Steve's out there. You give him a call at 888-TAX-DEAL or online. You can find him at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister. On the Nikki Medoro Show, baby.
I love it. I love it. We have a big yuck on ambrosia from Natalie. But the pistachio pudding, crushed pineapple, marshmallows, Cool Whip salad is great.
Oh, I don't know.
I've never had that. My daughter loves pumpkin pie. She was pardon me. She was with our friends. She was with her friends the other day. And also, just because I'm mentioning my daughter, thank you to everybody that's been reaching out for her. She's actually had a pretty good week this week. So we're very happy to hear about that. But anyways, my daughter goes with her friends to Target. And so she sends me all these pictures. And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, what did you buy? And she's all, I bought a pumpkin pie. I'm all like, a slice? And she's like, oh, no, I bought the whole pie. And they just all started digging in on it. Like, she had this whole video of all of her friends. Like, apparently I'm going to have to buy a couple of these pumpkin pies to put on the Thanksgiving table because anybody that goes into a store and just buys pies, my parents do this all the time. I don't know if there's any other pie lovers out there. My parents buy pie all year round. Like, it is just something they have in their kitchen and they just eat it. Like, do you want to? That's nothing that I would ever think of doing. But again, anybody that knows me, I'm not a pie person. I'm a cheesecake person. And so that's delicious. But okay, we have our good friend himself, the one, the only, Steve Moskowitz, on to join us. And Steve, I know that you give people a lot of tax advice, and I want to hear what you can do for our listeners. But I'd also love it, Steve, if you can touch on the tax implications for people that were lucky enough to buy Taylor Swift tickets, which were going for monster amounts, right? And they're going to resell for even higher amounts. Those resellers, Steve, I believe they have some tax problems on their hands, I think.
Absolutely, they do. And then we get into a very interesting tax question. So we know when we sell something for profit, we pay tax on it.
Of course.
And then we get to deduct our expenses.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question is this an ordinary income or is it capital gains where you pay half the taxes?
Mm.
So you say, well, what's the difference between the two? So ordinary income is things like wages, profits from a business, things like that.
Okay.
Capital gain is from the sale of some things, like if you sold your house or sold stock. Now, the theory of it, it's an occasional sale. So the capital gains rates are much less than the ordinary income rates. And you say, well, wait a minute, an occasional sale, people sell stock all the time. That's just kind of capital gain, everybody agrees to it. But what about a ticket? If it's an occasional sale, then I would take the position it was a capital gain and pay the lesser tax rate.
Oh.
As opposed to a seller would be inventory. So let me give you an easier example.
Okay.
Suppose you have one Swifty ticket.
Okay.
And you say, well, okay, I sold it. I would take the position that this was an occasional sale and therefore it was taxed at the lower rate. But suppose you were a ticket broker. I'd say, well, this is not an occasional sale, it's inventory. And that would probably be ordinary income rate. So the bottom line is, even something like that, I know the average person isn't thinking, well, is that a capital gain or is that ordinary income? But if you can fit it in under capital gain, you'd pay much less in taxes.
Right. And I thought also the rules regarding something like concert tickets has changed, because I felt like I read that the threshold of whether or not you have to pay on taxes got reduced to like $600, which
No,
I don't know, Steve.
We were talking about the reporting requirements.
Oh, okay. The reporting
The bottom line is, if you sold something for $1, the law says pay tax on it.
Oh,
but the 600 you're talking about is when people have to start reporting you.
Okay, so if I sell my Taylor Swift ticket for $1,000, this would apply to me then.
Well, again, if you sold your Taylor Swift ticket for any amount of money, as a tax lawyer, I would say, well, Nikki, report all of your income and subtract all of your expenses.
Of
and
course you would,
Since you're a media star, I'd say, well, you're not in the business of selling tickets.
Right.
So, it's a capital gain.
So, Steve, these are the types of questions that people can come to you, though, for. Like, if I had a bunch of Taylor Swift tickets that I was trying to sell, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't caught up in any fraud, so the IRS wouldn't be calling me, you're the person to call that can handle all of these things.
And then if you had enough tickets to sell, we'd say, well, wait a minute, is this a business where I can start taking a pension and getting all kinds of great deductions? See, I think it goes on and on and on. I know you said, I'll just ask you a simple question.
I know.
Well, wait, if this, if that goes, that's welcome to my life.
Well, but the great point that I think you're also making, Steve, is you're trying to make it the best outcome for me, the person that
Absolutely,
you're helping.
that's my job.
You don't want me to pay more than I have to, and you also don't want me to get in trouble with the IRS.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So give Steve a call. He is the guy. I'm telling you. He'll explain it to you in a way that you will understand. Simple number, 888 tax deal, or go online, moskowitzllp.com. That's moskowitzllp.com. Steve, I always appreciate your time coming on the show. Thank you so much.
I always love coming on the show with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. So again, it's going to apply to you. If you seem to be selling some Taylor Swift tickets or anything else, don't get in trouble. Give Steve Moskowitz a call. He is going to help you out and make sure that you don't get a letter in the mail from the IRS. Nobody wants that to happen. Let me give some shout outs right now to the love that we are receiving in the chat room. I love all of you. All right, let's start with Richard. $8.10. I get what you did there, Richard. I get it. Thank you. Oh, we also got a super sticker from Kent Van Hole. Ooh, I like that name. Van Hole. That's fun to say. $19.99 super sticker. We also got another super sticker from the one and only James Buchanan. Give it up for James. Thank you. And then Frank C coming in with the $20 and such a sweet note. Great show, Nikki and Kim. Thankful to have you and many of the old KGO alum on here. Voices of Reason. Love y'all. Love you too, Frank. And I do want to let you guys know, and I'm going to keep obviously promoting this. Mark Thompson comes on right before I do from 10 until noon. And Chip Franklin, he just launched his show this week. And it's from 9 until 10. So it's boom, boom, boom. All of us here to talk to you every single day and talk about all the issues that matter. And so we really appreciate everybody coming on and helping support the show. Again, We don't like begging for money, but it's the only thing that keeps the lights on, people. So if you can become a monthly Patreon subscriber, you can choose your amount. You know, if you have an extra 20 bucks in your wallet every month, throw it our way. We really appreciate it. And it's going to go so far. So just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, donate to our Patreon, become a monthly subscriber. We really appreciate it. Something that's absolutely free to do, clicking that thumbs up to show your support of the show. Do it right now. Just click it once, just do it. And also, while you're with your friends and family this Thanksgiving week, if you could have them subscribe to the show, get on their phone, show them how to download the YouTube app if you need to, just hit subscribe. Maybe they'll check it out, but as long as they're a subscriber, it helps us immensely. And so I would be very grateful on this Thanksgiving week if all of you did that, because that would be absolutely awesome. Okay, so let's talk a bit about Governor Newsom. So he did something I was actually quite surprised that he did. So it was 2 weeks ago, just before Election Day, when he rejected every single local homeless action plan. Okay, so he was basically saying, these plans suck, to put it bluntly. Okay. So nearly $1 billion in homeless funding, he said he was not going to release. Now, the plans altogether, I get why he did this, promised to reduce visible street homelessness by 2%. All right. That's that's 2,000 fewer people statewide. We're a big ass state. Only 2,000 people in the whole state.
How much does that cost?
$1 billion.
2,000 people for $1 billion?
Yeah. So Newsom says that's unacceptable. No, I'm rejecting every single plan. So of course that led to chaos. Many of the 13 largest cities, 58 counties, and 44 homeless service providers were freaking out. Okay. They thought they'd been approved for all this money. And now Newsom was saying, nah, I'm not giving you it. That sucks. Now, according to this article I think this is in the Chronicle, local governments did not have much of an incentive to shoot higher because of the way the grant was written. It said, in the name of accountability, they tied nearly a fifth of the $1 billion to local governments meeting their own targets. So if they're telling you, look, you don't get this money unless you meet a target, you're going to go low, because that way it would kind of ensure that you would get the money. Make sense? So you don't want to go high and then not meet it, because then you don't get the money. So I understand why they did it low, but at the same time, I wouldn't go to my boss and do the bare minimum. It's like, well, I'll sit at my desk. How about that? You know, like, it's like, no, I'm going to have a better goal than that, you know?
No. But and as a taxpayer in California, don't you look at the loss of those funds, the use of those funds, which feels like a loss, and say to yourself, I could personally take that billion, I could go buy several apartment buildings, I could hire a guy to manage them, and I myself could get 2,000 people off the street in a better way than you are. And I know it costs money to pay social workers and help people get on their feet where they don't need state help. I know it costs money, you know, I was just reading a story this morning that the city of San Diego has got a new homeless czar, that they're offering this position. They will manage the homeless crisis in San Diego. The pay for this position is almost $200,000 a year.
Wow.
So I get you need staff. I get you need to pay people to do this, but $1 billion and the only dent you can make is 2,000 people. We're failing.
Statewide?
No,
not good. So this is what's going to happen. So applicants with these homeless groups, they need to sign a pledge to submit more ambitious, unsheltered targets, try harder in their plans for the next $1 billion. You wonder why people call it the homeless industrial complex, right?
Yeah.
And then the state will start cutting checks for this round. So the plans are due on the 29th of this month. A handful of local governments will have to work with the state to adjust their current plans before seeing the funding, although Newsom's deputy chief of staff has not named which local governments need to do that. But, obviously the reason why the bar was also set so low is homelessness is exploding. And it's not just here in California. And I know people love to hate on California, but it's not just in California. It is around the country. And why? Let me hear it. People in the back. People can't afford housing. People can't afford rent. It is as simple as that. There is a housing shortage. Here in California, we're definitely not keeping up with building enough housing to meet demand. The rents are too high. The homes are selling for too much. And if that keeps going, this is what we're going to see. So there was an article that I was reading. You would have to earn more than $200,000 to afford a typical home they just listed 8 in California. San Francisco, you would need to make almost $403,000 if you wanted to buy a median price home. In San Jose, almost $364,000. All right. Anaheim, you have to make about $254,000. Oakland, $248,000. LA, which actually this kind of surprises me. It's lower, much lower, $222,000. San Diego, $213,000. Seattle, $205,000. Now, you may be asking yourself, how many people, what is the percentage of American households that make over $200,000 a year? Now, this is in the entire country, and I know obviously wages and home prices are way different. But in 2019, 22 million U.S. households lived with under $25,000 a year. They made less than $25,000 a year.
Can't even imagine.
No, I can't even imagine. No. In 2020, 2 years ago, the median household income in America was under $68,000. Okay. Earning between $150,000 and $200,000 a year ranks you in the top 5% of working Americans. If you make $141,000, you're in the 80th percentile. So the answer to my question, what percentage of households? 6.7% of U.S. households make over $200,000 a year. Just not even 7%. And we wonder why people are falling into homelessness. We wonder why even in states and cities that are cheaper, why people move there and then drive up the home prices. There's no control on this. And I don't know what the control is. Don't come here for any answers. I don't know what the control is that people will actually support. Okay. I don't have any idea how you stop the free market from doing what it does to housing prices. Unless you raise wages and then other things go up. I understand that whole thing, but this is why. It's not that we're just some liberal backward state. People want to live here, supply and demand, and that's just driving up the prices. And it's sad. And I don't know what the answer is going to be, but we have to do something, Kim. I mean, I don't see a way out of this. They're throwing billions of dollars at it, and we still can't really make a dent. That's crazy.
You think to yourself, if so few people make $250,000 or more in order to afford these homes, then the market would dictate that. But the problem is you have people from foreign countries that are foreign investors just buying up homes here that they either leave vacant or maybe sometimes rent out, whatever it is. So then it doesn't tell the true story of what our market in the Bay Area or the US in general can support. Because at some point, if you have too few people to afford the home inventory, the prices would have to come down. But that's not so anymore.
No, it's not. I mean, it's one of those things that it seems like, and what's frightening is it doesn't matter how high it goes, because there's going to be someone that will pay it because of where we are, right? I mean, there's just going to be people that are willing to overpay for something because we're in California or in the Bay Area or we're near certain businesses or we're near the ocean or we have fabulous weather. I mean, you can't replace that. You can't pick that up and move that, to Wisconsin or something. Jim writes in the chat room, in Tokyo, they have 100-year loans by families, $4,500 per month for a $1 million loan. That's crazy.
Can you imagine 100-year? Like, you never get out from underneath it.
Well, you just keep passing it down to your family. I mean, that's going to be some upkeep on that house, right?
Yeah, that's horrible.
I wouldn't necessarily want it. Joe writes in, because they keep throwing money at the same organizations that have no idea how to solve the problem. I'll push back just a bit. I do think that there's too many programs. I will say this. I think that there should be some consolidation of the homeless programs and the nonprofits that work on this, because the people that work within them are overworked, underpaid. I don't want people to lose their jobs, but can we combine services? Can we make it work better? Because at Station X, we talked a number of times with people that ran these organizations and reporters that covered, the SROs and some of these housing options for homeless people. And it's just a failure. It's an abject failure. And why? Why is it a failure? It's not because these people don't have the heart for it. It's not that people don't want to see a positive outcome or want to see people dying in hallways or still being drug addicted or whatever. It's that we're not using our money in the right way. There's not enough oversight. There's too many programs, and you're spreading out the money so much, in my opinion, that nobody's getting enough to do the job adequately. And so, but we need to do better, especially in this state. 2,000 statewide? No. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I would fire anybody that was throwing $1 billion or $2 billion at something and getting those sorts of results.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed that Governor Gavin Newsom didn't stick to his guns on that, because I don't think that's right by the taxpayers.
I don't either. So I was kind of conflicted. I said the same thing as you. If this was the outcome, then no, you don't get the money. But then when I read about how the grant was written, I understand why the goal that they were projecting was so low. It's kind of that whole argument, what is it? Promise low, promise little and surprise them or something. Somebody in the chat room knows. You don't want to oversell yourself.
Under promise and over deliver. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. So that's what I think their whole thinking is. But when you're talking about $1 billion, aim a bit higher, right? Aim a bit higher. Okay, I did see in the chat room, because I had mentioned before the show ends that Chip Franklin has launched his own show. And all of you guys are typing in, as I would imagine, the Chip Franklin Show. And I should have mentioned this, so I will mention this now and share with all of your friends. It's called What the Franklin. So search for that. That's the name of his show. What the Franklin, like WTF. You got it. We just love Chip. So it's What the Franklin, and you can find a show there. And his show is on, pardon me, from 9 until 10. And then Mark Thompson, of course, 10 until noon. And then slide right over to my show from noon until 2. And we'll do it there. So again, if you're looking for Chip, it's What the Franklin on YouTube.
A little news before you move on.
Yeah.
Attorneys for former President Trump are asking a federal judge right now to unseal the Mar-a-Lago search warrant affidavit. So that's interesting.
Well, good. Well, we know what's in it. You have classified documents. Give them back.
That's what's in it.
Well, I wonder if they have details of what specific types of classified. Not that we should get that information because they're classified, but that'll be interesting to see. So I guess we'll see tomorrow. Again, tomorrow we'll do a bit of a pre-Thanksgiving show. Again, this show will not be on Thanksgiving, so everybody enjoy that time with their family. We will, though, be back on Friday for a Friday show. So make sure that you make a delicious little meal for us to eat for our Friday food segment right in the first hour of the show. So thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Again, please click that thumbs up button before the show ends. Subscribe. Just click the button. Maybe you can't join every day, but as long as you're subscribed to the show, it helps us out and we're knocking it out of the ballpark. And when you're with family and friends, please make sure they're subscribed. And remember, this show is portable. You can take it as a podcast. So if you want to listen to the show, instead of maybe you can't be in front of a computer screen, you can find us on all the podcasting apps, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever obscure podcast app you may have on your phone. You can find the Nikki Medoro Show there. And please also share that with your friends because it helps us out. And we absolutely love it. All right. A big thank you to Kim McAllister. A big thank you to all of you. And we'll talk again tomorrow at noon.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.